She's playing the waitress. This is a great improv.
All right. So out of all the personal development books that you have read, which is your favorite and why? Jimmy?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I have been through it. Personal development was one of those things that I was late to the party. People kept telling me, oh, it's important. And I feel like a lot of coaches are like, I'll sweat, I'll break, drink a shake. Don't ask me to read a book. And I'm still not a very good reader, but audiobooks are my lifesaver. And now, this answer has changed throughout the years, but right now, and my team can tell you, if you had to listen, and I tell you to get the audio even if you're a reader, listen to one book. It is The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. Oh, I love the fact that everybody's head just went down. They could have called that book The Hand Guide to Being a Beachbody Coach. Like, it's really eerie how he tells you what's going to suck about this, that your family's going to think you're crazy. Like, it's not just raw, it really sets the expectation for what you do getting into this, and then why every minute is worth it. So that's my go-to.
I love it. Can I just tell you a quick thing, you guys? I agree. I love Darren Hardy, and I love that book. And I literally told my husband, if we have a son, we're naming him Darren because of that. Wow. So Melanie, what is yours?
We did talk about that last night, so I know that's true. So I feel like my books have changed. If you were to look over the seasons of the past 5 years, and the one I always go back to is always the first one I read. So I think for new coaches in the room, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson is a great book, just because if you have never started a business before, you don't get the ebbs and flows of business, and I felt like The Slight Edge really helped me to understand that. But then The Compound Effect is a Darren Hardy book, and that's the one that I really recommend all my new coaches pay attention to. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
Are we getting checks from Darren Hardy?
All right, so this is a really good one, and it applies to this time of year. So with the holidays looming, the engagement in challenge groups is slowing down. Invites are becoming tougher, and people are canceling to save money for the holidays. Do you have any tips for staying successful through the holiday season?
All right, well, this is my jam.
That's why.
Well, number one, you can't think, yes, of course it's harder, but you can't have that mindset that it's impossible, right? You just can't. You have to think outside of the box. This is where your creativity kicks in. So again, think about the niche, right? Think about what are the solutions? What are the problems people have right now? Why are they canceling? How can you help them, give them a solution? So number one, the first thing I do when it comes to challengers is I think about shortened challenge groups. So the timing is key, and I just did this with my team. You know, where Core to Force is launching, nobody has that program. You can't rip that off the computer. You can't buy it on Amazon. So Core to Force is awesome. We, as coaches, everybody should be buying Core to Force. Everybody should be taking their before pictures. Everybody should be planning out your meals, and you should be taking people on that journey through social media on a program that nobody has ever done before. That is your greatest leveraging point. Because what happens, and I'll tell you, just in this past week, I've been doing this business tip in my team page talking about how to launch Core to Force. And so when I first started talking about it, nobody was really excited. But because I'm posting videos about me doing the workout, I'm now getting comments on my stuff. Oh, I wasn't interested in that, but that looks good. And so now people are becoming more aware. And if I do that over the next 4 weeks, I will be able to get enough people to get my Success Club points for November, because people are going to gift it to themselves for the holidays, right? The other thing too is then that's going to carry you right into December. And then between Thanksgiving and Christmas is the perfect time to not talk about drastic weight loss, it's a good time to talk about 80-20. We're not talking about all-in total body transformation. We're talking about survival. How do you survive all of the cookies and all of the treats and all of the drinks and not feel like you're being deprived? That's your leverage. You talk about how you're going to teach people balance and healthy alternatives. And if you yourself work harder than you've ever worked over these next couple of months to get maybe just Success Club 5, I guarantee you will have the January that everybody else will be kicking themselves that they weren't consistent over these next 3 months.
You really set up the start of 2017 now. My team and I had a call the other day about that, is that our efforts now through the end of the year is going to determine, everybody else is going to get started, you know, in January. And if you will do these things and take these tips now, you're already hitting the ground running. And again, like I was saying earlier, you have no competition because most people won't do this. Specifically with a brand new program, that literally the way me and a lot of my team do is, I'm not starting a November challenge group. It's like, watch me this month because we're all starting in December. And so if they see me and all my team going through this in November, knowing we're starting in December, and the big play is like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna start in January because I want to enjoy everything. If you speak to these objections first, like I used to avoid them, but now I just shine a big light on them and go, oh no, I know you think this, or money, or whatever. I just put it out in the open and say, this is why I'm choosing to still do it this way. I think you take a lot of power away from those objections.
And I think you really can pull from what he said in his speech about, imagine you can have a total body transformation in 60 days, and there's like everybody needs to leave here and make a post about that. Because think about how many light bulbs are going to go off in people's minds that are watching you, that are thinking about how they're just going to wait until January to get started.
Yeah, and just for your own health, and I meant to say this earlier and I ran out of time, I was also blessed enough to be a part of the coach test group when Max 30 came out. And I host a retreat for my team. In fact, I'm taking them to Disney World next week. But we did one in New Orleans while I was in the middle of that test group. And there's not a worse city to try to be in the middle of that. But I had a few little treats there, but I didn't go as all in as I would because I had given myself like this. I wanted to have great results for the test group, right? And so if you go into, just think of it personally, you go into this holiday season trying to get this body transformation over the next 60 days, then you have 1 cup of eggnog instead of the bowl. Or you have you still enjoy yourself, but you're not gonna go off on a bender over the holidays that so many of us do if you have this mindset going into it.
That's true. We were in the test group together.
Oh, that's right.
That was brutal.
We've been besties. And we would do like live Zoom workouts with Sean every once in a while. That was, jeez. Yeah, it was awesome.
Alright, that was pretty awesome. Good tips, you guys. So, next question. What are your top tips on addressing cost concerns, dealing with price objections, and I love this, closing the deal?
I get a good one. Can I leave on this one? I get excited. So this is one, I'm not real big on scripts. Certain coaches are, just in network marketing in general, it's like, here, just say this and don't mess it up. I've gone that route before. I'm not big on scripts, but I am big on, if I find a certain way to phrase something that I find works for me, I share it with my team and say, look, you may say this a little differently, but the one that I love lately. So, how many of you, somebody said that they're interested, but the very first question is like, so how much does it cost? Like the first thing, you're like, I don't want to tell them at first. Right, or you're like, oh, it's $140. They're like, no, and they leave. So, as a CEO of my business, if they're fronting with, so how much does it cost? How much are the shakes? And I'm like, oh man, no sweat. I'm the CEO of my own company. I'll hook you up. What's your budget? Because if I don't play that card, they may have in their head, and I've had somebody come back and because some people assume what we do is really expensive. Because there's other companies that it's like $5,000 to get started or stuff like that. And so I was like, hey, I'll make sure something works. What's your budget? Or how much were you looking to invest in yourself? That's also a good one. Yeah. And when they come back and go, man, I only have a couple $100. I'm like, dude, I got you. What if I knocked 60 off of that? Would that help too? They don't have to know it was $140 in the first place. I just did them a favor. Right? But it's just, and so, it's one of those things that I just ask them, so what were you looking at? Now, if their budget is 0, great. You can try Beachbody On Demand for 30 days for free. And one other point, sometimes your best customers, your best coaches, the business builders that you will have for life, your first interaction with them doesn't yield you any Success Club points. And that really is true, guys. If you're really looking to serve, yes, do we want everybody to start with a challenge pack? Does it make the most sense? Absolutely. But I've had people that said, hey, I have a burned copy, can you help? That are like rock star coaches on my team now as well.
That was me. I borrowed, it was a burned copy of Insanity, and I couldn't afford Shakeology. I didn't buy Shakeology for 60 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and she left me in the challenge group, so yeah. And you go into it without not expecting anything in return. When you help people, I think about, even getting down to the end when somebody tells you no, they just really can't afford it, I'm like, no problem. I am always here to help. Even if you just want to bounce ideas off of me, if you want to ask me questions, like please don't hesitate to message me. And if the time is right next month, just send me a message or I'll follow up with you and I'll get you into a group. And I've had so many people genuinely there to help. And then there are people that I genuinely know they can't afford it, but maybe they can just buy the DVDs. And those are the ones that I'm like, you can be in my group. Just don't tell anybody you're not drinking Shakeology, right? Because I make it a requirement. And those are always the people that within 30 days end up buying.
So this was me on the message boards before we had Facebook groups. I feel so old when I say these things, like I'm the grandpa. But what I tell my team also with that is if you put them in, I put my people that can't afford Shakeology or think they can in a Shakeology-friendly environment, which is the group. Because when I was on the message boards early on and I had to like max out a credit card to go get the initial Power 90, everybody in there were taking Activit, the supplements that we had at the time. And I went from, I can't afford any of this, and I was watching people get the results with these other supplements, that I was like, oh, I was in the boat. Like, nobody had to sell me the group. Like, the environment that I got put in, I upgraded myself. So that's, yes.
And then if you want to talk about the social media part of it with objections. So when it comes to, I do this a lot because I like the attraction marketing. Like I really try to make people ask me questions because I'll be honest, I don't love inviting. I really don't like it. So I try to be as interesting as possible so that I don't have to, so they'll like my picture and then as soon as they like it, that gives me permission to message them and ask a question.
That's good, I like that.
I do. So I really try to get people to listen and actually Google this, how to get more interaction on your Facebook posts and how to get people, that was how I learned how to do this, was just watching other people. But I would put out there like bold statements of, do you want to try Shakeology but you think it's too expensive? Are you afraid that you won't like it? Stuff like that. And I would have an image, an eye-catching image, and I would get people to respond by saying, I'm the same way as you. I wanted to, chew my food. I didn't want to drink my meals. I had never been a shake person before. I had never tried Shakeology. I was afraid I wouldn't like it, but I gave it 30 days to see. I said 30 days, money back guarantee, bought it back and sent back the bag empty. And I was like, I'm gonna give this a good 30 days and see what happens because I'm at a plateau. I can't seem to lose any more weight. I'm stuck. I feel like I'm making good choices, but I'm not making progress. And when I phrased it that way, and I invited people to try it, to like the post or message me, that's when I got more personal messages because I was speaking to them. It was what they were thinking inside of their head is what I was writing in that Facebook post.
Those are good tips. Very, very good tips. Okay, so we have 3 questions left in about 10 or 15 minutes, so these are going to be quick. But this next one is a very good one, and I'm sure you could each probably spend 10 minutes each on this, so just FYI. But what was your biggest failure or maybe biggest regret during this business journey? And how did you bounce back from it, or would you go back and change it? That's kind of a biggest failure, how did you bounce back, or biggest regret, and would you change it? Who wants to take it?
I can go first. I know what mine is. I don't have any regrets. If I were to start my Beachbody business again from day one, I would do it exactly the way I did it. I would not, I honestly swear to you, I would not change a thing. I feel like everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to be. I learned a lot of tough lessons along the way, and they were good lessons. There was one major failure where I was pushing for a goal, and some of you might be pushing for Elite or Premier, or maybe you were pushing to go to the leadership conference, and that was me. I actually missed, and it was 2-star to go to leadership a couple of years ago. It was at Dana Point, and I was 1-star, and my other coach literally needed like 2 more coaches to get to Diamond. And I remember having it up on my whiteboard, and we would be on the phone every single day. Okay, do you have another coach? What can we do? How can we get these people? And she missed it. And I missed the qualifications. And my friend was like, if I make it, I'll take you as my guest. And I was like, okay. I'm like, all right, so if I don't get it, she's gonna get it. I'm still gonna get to go no matter what. She gave up. She gave up, and she could have had it. It could have happened. And I was so angry that I didn't make it, that she didn't make it, and then I was watching all these, do you ever watch people and you're like, they don't deserve to be there, I deserve to be there. I worked harder than them, like I deserve to be there. I can't believe that person is there. And I was so angry. I was angry, and I can remember sitting, I had a conversation with one of my mentors at that time, and she said, Melanie, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And she was right. And she was like, and I thought to myself, I'm not gonna throw myself a pity party. While they're all at leadership, I'm gonna outwork them because they're partying, they're having a good time. And I got on that computer, I probably put in like 12-hour days, right? And I just outworked them, and I thought, I'll never again miss another benchmark. And that propelled me forward. That was the one thing. I just needed that one thing to say, I don't want to miss out. I will never miss it again. And then I just, boom, took off.
So smart. For me, you know, we had a call with my team the other day. We were talking about the reasons people get into this business. And really, the number one is, for most people, it's the community, right? It's this. And that was me. I didn't get into this thinking I was going to make a lot of money. Or thinking, oh, this is the way I'm going to not be a broke actor the rest of my life. I just thought I love these people. But if I had a regret, it's the fact that I would have learned more about how this business works early. It still shocks me that there's coaches that have been in this business a couple years and say, you know, they're treating their business like a business, and I ask them something about carryover volume or something about the comp plan, and I watch their eyes glaze. Like they have no clue what I'm talking about, yet they tell me they're trying to retire their spouse or quit their job. And for me, I remember when my wife and I found out we were pregnant with my son, my big goal was like, that's when the money thing kind of turned on for me, and I was like, my goal is that she will not have to go back after maternity leave. And I made this big thing, and I was going to push, and I was going to get to 5-star. I was like, oh, I'm going to get 5-star, this and that. And I remember I got to 5-star and had one of my lowest checks that week. And I felt robbed, and I felt lied to, and cheated, and mad, until I went and realized that for those of you out there looking to think that the world's changing at Diamond or 2 or 5 or 10 or 15 or Elite, it's not. It's not. Like, I literally got there and thought, oh, you know, we're never going to have to worry about money ever again, with no concept of how volume works or really why and how we get paid. And so if I had to do it all over again, before I go chasing a goal, and I tell my coaches this when they tell me my next goal is 2-star, I'm like, cool, how do you want to change your life? And we start looking, and sometimes it makes more sense to build this leg over here that's not going to lead to a rank advancement. You're not going to get a jacket or a shirt, but you're going to change your kid's life. If you're smart and know how to build this business the right way. Some of the people that I know that make the most money in this business, you will never see on a stage, and they're probably people's names that you don't know as well. But they learn how they're going to change their life, their family's life, and leave a legacy. And so that was my biggest regret, was understanding, you know, this business and the comp plan better.
Amen. Great response, both of you. That was awesome. All right, so 2 questions. This is a quick one, and I actually laughed out loud when I read it. When asked, what do you do for work? How do you respond?
This changes daily when you say, I'm going to take notes from Melanie.
I just say I'm a health and fitness coach.
Okay.
That's what I say. And then people usually look at me and I'm like, do you Beachbody? I work for a company called Beachbody. And they just kind of look at me like, have you ever heard of P90X and Insanity? Yes. Yeah, that's what we do.
That is exactly
That's
what
usually
I
how it goes.
And mine isn't too different. I say something along the I always lead with I'm a business coach, because I feel like my gifting is more in the business side of this, even though I have the physical transformation, been blessed to be in DVDs and stuff, I still look at myself as a business coach more than I do a fitness guy. But then I lead with that same thing. I'm like, hey, you know, P90X Insanity? Yeah, I help people get results with those, and I also teach people how to make money when they get results with them, which usually at least sparks a question. So.
Those are great. I like it. That's what I do. All right. Last question. This is a really good one, and you can kind of expand on it a little bit. So, basically, do most of your new coaches and customers come from building relationships first, or do you find yourself getting a lot of people from more like promotional materials, like your blog, Facebook? So basically, I think the question is kind of, do you find yourself still spending a lot of time on one-on-one connections? How are you finding these coaches and customers?
I tell my team I'm the worst example to follow. Because, and so many of you like came up and said to me, you know, I like your videos, this and that, and what I have to continually tell my team is, I do that stuff because the performer in me likes it. Like, that's my entertainment, that's my fun in this business, is making the cool videos and stuff. Yes, just like Melanie said, a lot of what I do, you do turn a corner and start getting certain attraction, like you can post and people build things up. But I tell my team, and this has been true for me for 9 years, anything that you see that's like, hey, email me here, or opt in there, or this fancy video or whatever, and I need to do a better job of making sure everybody knows, the team knows, it never, ever, ever, ever for me replaces the one-on-one conversations I'm having behind the scenes. Because I think people look at somebody like me or people that have maybe bigger social media followings and go, oh, they just throw a net out there and everybody comes. And for some people, once they get a certain size following, that is true. For me, I am still always working off a list, cultivating those relationships, and really more than asking I use that list to find referrals. You know, when they say make a list and start asking, I don't necessarily pinch those people. I say, hey, if you don't know, you know, I talk a little bit about what I do. Do you know anybody that I can help that would want to improve their health and fitness or make a little extra money? Now that person I'm talking to may go, me. But that way, for me, it's never icky as far as I'm trying to push it on that person. I'm just asking for the referral. Hey, I'm just looking for new people. Do you know anybody? And for me, that's less pushy than, do you want to be in my challenge group, to somebody who hasn't come to me first.
So I have always found people through Facebook. It's been my primary, but I've had my blog since the day I started, and I don't say that everybody needs to have a blog, but I like to write, and that's kind of my platform, and I felt like, for me, that was an easy way for me just to share more information, and I'm very passionate about nutrition and clean eating and like the workouts, and I found it was a way for me. And also because I'm such a shy person, I can always say to people, well, I have a blog, follow me on my blog. And then they could go over there and they could read all of my recipes and tips and my how-tos, and I would teach people how to read labels. And I felt like that was an easy way for people to connect to me. And I always have, I have a Wufoo application. It's a free form building site where people can fill out their information. And I ask a lot of the questions that I would ask when I was forming somebody at the beginning of a conversation. So when they fill out that form, they've been following me for a while. They've clicked around my blog, they've read my story, they read my recipes, and so that connection is there. So I find that I have an easier time getting people to commit because they've read so much about me already. But then I don't just assume that whenever I answer that initial application, I will sit and I will have a conversation. I do not go right to the bottom line. Even if they say, I want to lose weight or I want to do 21-day fix, I make sure I take the time to have that conversation. So you can throw out a blog, you can throw out a website, but it, again, does not replace the relationship, because that's where people get the feeling of whether or not you really want to help them or you're just looking to make a quick buck.
Can I say
Go
one
for
thing
it.
real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry. And I think with both of us, whether it's a blog or videos or whatever, it's the consistency. Find one thing, like people think you gotta run in 6 directions. I gotta be on Snap and Instagram, and it's like, find what it is that brings you joy. Like for me, it's way easier for me with no script to pop on a Facebook Live and just ramble talk for 20 minutes than it would be for you to sit and type out, like if you ask me to type out a blog, but it's like, am I being consistent with it? Because if you have something to point people to, then I have people that come up to me that have never met me that feels like, Jimmy, I feel like I know you. How are they, like they're asking me like, how's Angel? I'm like, why do you know my baby? Oh wait, because I pimp out my family all the time on social media. But there is a bit of that trust. They can go through your blog and they know you. It establishes that trust so fast. So whatever it is that you choose, just be consistent with it.
Yeah, and Facebook ads are such a big thing these days, but they're so ineffective if you aren't building that relationship. You know, with social media, I have all of these people, coaches on my team, that are Facebook ads, taking all this Facebook training, and they're like trying to figure out their target market, but they just suck at attracting people to them. They're not sharing their life, they're just another Beachbody coach. So it never replaces the interaction, the connection with people.
Those are awesome. All right, you guys, we have like 1 minute, and there's just one more question left, and I think this is a good one to end with before we go into the corporate video. But what keeps you, yourself, inspired and motivated? You obviously are both very successful. You've been around for a long time, 9 years, 5 years. Like, what is it that keeps you motivated here today?
I know my answer. So it just happened to me the other day, actually. I'm going to talk about what I posted in my team page. So I did something for the past 30 days, Jimmy, the whole 30, you're talking about this, right? And I've been very public about it. It's not even a Beachbody related program, but it's just having so many issues, just with my body, and I'm healthy. And so I started this journey, and I can't believe how many people have followed my whole 30, and how people have seriously need to get a cut of this book, because I think I've sold so many of these books. But anyways, so I'm doing this group where I didn't require anybody to buy anything, but just to buy the books, and I was gonna walk them through it. And I had so many of my own personally sponsored coaches in this group. And I got this message the other day, and she said, I might not be your best coach. I may never have hit Success Club. I might not be very consistent, but you're changing my life. And because you're helping me and you're teaching this whole 30 group, and because you're guiding me, I'm finding out all of these things I didn't know about myself, and I've lost 7 pounds in the last 2 weeks, and I just sat there with tears in my eyes, and I thought, that's why I do what I do. And so I went over to my team page, and I when you want to yell in your team page, you do it in all caps. And so in all caps, I just said to my team, guys, I just had one of those moments where I just need to share this with you. And I said, I don't care how many Success Book points you get. I don't care if you are on the recruiting boards every week or you're top shot. If I have helped you change your life in some way, a transformation, physical, emotional, then I have done my job, and I just want you to know how important that is to me, that you share that stuff with me, because that's what keeps me going. And all of a sudden it was like, I know I'm not a very good coach, but this is what you've done for me, and this is what you've done. And I was like, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is what drives me to continue to do what I do. I love my job.
Love that.
That's great.
That was a true story.
All of that. It's not too different, because for me, there's always the next mountain, right? There's always the next. I think I drive my wife nuts because we'll hit a milestone or something, and I feel like I'm that football coach that won the Super Bowl. And it's like, we have 3 incomplete passes that game. And my team's laughing because they all know. It's like, and it's not that I'm a negative person by trade, but there's always something better to do. We can be better. I can be better. There's the next level. But it echoes a lot of what you said. I think you'll find the most successful coaches in this business is I'll have people come up, a few of you here at Summit, nothing to do with my business. I'll never rank advance ordering $1 off these people, but they say, hey Jimmy, I watched one of your videos, or I sat in on one of your trainings, or you helped me do this, that either helped them build their business, their relationship, lose some weight, whatever. And I just don't know something else where you can have such a tangible impact on somebody's life than this. And if you really will just pour into people, not only anytime I have somebody that's like, I'm losing motivation, or I'm having a hard time, or I'm being depressed, I encourage them, go to the team page and go encourage somebody. Go show somebody else something good they're doing. Because the minute you just stop focusing on you, and if I can go help, say something nice about you, and then you, and then you, my stuff isn't as bad anymore. And I kind of get back on that track. And I think just that the opportunity to serve that people and literally have a dynamic impact in people's lives while continuing to challenge myself is the same thing.
That's awesome. Jimmy, Melanie, I know I speak for everybody in this room, but seriously, thank you for taking time away from your schedules and your children on Halloween weekend to be here with us today. You guys, can we give them a round of applause?